Assalamualaikum and hi, my name is Nabila Binti Kamarulzaman with my group member Hesya, Azizul, Hakimi and Nursyuhadah Natasha. We will be presenting to you about our group project SMK St. Mary Archive. I will explain first about SMK St. Mary School. SMK St. Mary School was founded in 1912 in Weld Road, Kuala Lumpur and was situated in an estate manager's cottage of a former coffee plantation. This school quickly became a school of choice that offered outstanding education for girls in the Klang Valley while upholding strong traditions of service, devotions, and achievement. But what is interesting is that two famous Malaysian women, Tun Dr. Siti Asma and Datin Sri Endon Mahmud, used to go to school at SMK St. Mary. And this school, which was located in Jalan Tengah, Kuala Lumpur, then had to be moved to new and contemporary buildings and grounds in Taman Intan Baiduri in Selayang because Jalan Tengah had to be closed in 1998.
History of St. Mary's School Archive. St. Mary's School Archive was developed on 2020. It is located in the school area. In our school archive, there are 3 areas in it, which are public and staff area, processing area, and storage area. The school archive handling paper-based records and audio-visual records owned by St. Mary's School. But right now, we are focusing on audio-visual records that owned by St. Mary's Schools. The audio-visual records consist of CD, microfilm, film, photograph, and sound recording. Currently, we have 4 school archivists to handle each archive materials. All of our archivists have received guidance from National Archive Malaysia to handle and managing audiovisual records material. These are the objectives of St. Mary's School Archive. First, to increase awareness among school community on the importance of school archive. Second, to identify the value of school material and justify its retention period. Third, to preserve school archival material to fulfill school community needs for current usage and future. Fourth, able to access and retrieve the material within the speed of light. Our vision is to make St. Mary's School Archive as a great school archive by 2030 that can be a model of school archive to other schools. The mission is to ensure that every valuable material created by St. Mary's School community consists of teachers or students are preserved and maintained well. This is the organization chart for our school archive. We have 4 staff consist of Nabila, Hesya, Mohamad Azizul Hakimi, and Nursyuhadah Natasha. So each staff is responsible to handle every material contained in the school archive. Next, policy for audiovisual collection in St. Mary's School. First policy is audiovisual records that are related to Malaysian heritage which was produced by our school staffs or students. Audiovisual records that are related to St. Mary's School by school staff or student. Audiovisual collection or related to St. Mary's School created by non-related personnel to the school. Audiovisual records about St. Mary's School heritage that are produced by any government organization or agency. And last policy is audiovisual records that mention about St. Mary's School in their recording.
And next is about acquisitions. Every organization that collects has a collection that will develop over time. So the process of adding content to an archive collection is known as acquisitions. The process of appraisal for acquisitions need appropriate identifying so that an archive will have appropriate collections. After considering the acquisition procedure, the archivist can obtain an archive collections or AV collections using 4 ways. First is donation, second is purchase, third is loan, and fourth is transfer. The first method of acquisition is donations. Donation is categorized as permanent deposit of archival material from a person or organization to archival institutions with legal ownership transfer but no monetary compensation. The transmitter would be regarded a loan if the contents were only to be kept in archive for a short period of time. In addition, a donation is completed by signing a legally binding donor agreement. The second way of acquisition is transfer. Transfer can happen from one agency to another, from the creation office to archiving institutions. Anytime a transfer occurs, the procedure and the transfer document should be codified to maintain the chain of custody and identify the precise code transfer. Next, third way of acquisition is loan, but there are three types of loan, which is reproduction of loan, indefinite loan, and exhibit loan. So first, reproduction of loan. Reproduction of loan needs an institution to receive archive material for the purpose of photocopying, photographing, microfilming, or digitizing. So the originals are returned to the lender once the job is completed. The lender must surrender the material for a predetermined period, and the archivist must verify that the originals are safe while at the archive institutions. The next ways of loan is by exhibit. So the exhibit loan entail the temporary storage of a physical archival place for the purpose of display. But time indefinite loans are another option. However, they are not recommended for archiving purposes because receiving documents on an indefinite loan is considered as a bad idea when it comes to archival management. Lastly, we have a purchase. So, purchase is a type of individual book and manuscript merchants and auctions houses. So, these are source of material when archival institution can make a purchase. For those who wonders about the collection in our archive, the types of every records and archive in St. Mary's School Archive are first photograph. So a photograph is a picture formed by light striking a photosensitive surface, often photographic film or an electronic image sensor such as CCD or CMOS chip. Second collection is a videotape. So videotape is a type of magnetic tape that is used to capture moving images and audio. An analog signal or a digital signal can be used to store information, while videotape is used also to record as well as video cassette recorders and camcorders. So the third collection is diskette. Diskette is a floppy disk or type of disk storage composed of a thin and flexible disk of a magnetic storage medium in a square or nearly square plastic enclosure line with a fabric that removes dust particles from the spinning disk. The next types of AV collection is CD or compact disc. A compact disc is a digital optical disc data storage form that was developed by Philips. It used to store and play digital audio recording. Next is microfilm. Microfilm are reduced size replies of documents, generally on a film or paper, that great for transmission, storage, viewing, and printing. And last but not least, in our AV archive, we have microfilm. Microfilm is an analog storage media that consists of film reel that are exposed and processed into photographic record through the use of a photographic process. And paper materials such as magazine, legal paper, and novel are commonly used to store in this microfilm.
For creation of new AV records, we have decided to make a documentary video of Grace. So in order to make this documentary, we already did PowerPoint and storyboard. So in the PowerPoint and storyboard, we already discussed the elements that we should embed in the documentary. So the elements are introduction of Grace, history of Grace, characteristic and values of Grace, making of Grace, usage of Grace, development of Grace, and types of Grace. So these are the elements that we already embedded in our documentary video of Grace.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Nursyuhadah Natasha Binti Mohamad Rizal, and I will explain about the classification of audiovisual records and archives and the process of the dissemination of AV records and archives. For the classification, the general meaning of classification is the elements that are important for the maintaining and managing the audiovisual collections. The classification system of the paper-based record can be applied for the audiovisual record, and it is recommended to keep the numbering system that are to be used are simple and can be read by the audiovisual archivist. Not only that, the sequential of the classification number should be easy to follow and allow the infinite growth of all audiovisual record that will be archived in the future. This means that the reason why classification is important to the archival institution, because of we want the collection based on the good running system and the good structure of coordination by apply the classification sim. Classification can be defined as a tool which is classification system and the coding system used. For the classification system used, we are simply choosing a simple filing systems. The reason why we choose simple filing system because of our archives, school archive, St. Mary's School archives are really minimized in the collections. By using simple filing system, the collection can be coordinated based on the simple filing system that have been conducted by our staffs. Hence, simple filing system can be identify the audiovisual collection and separate each collections based on the types of audiovisual and year of distributions. This means that each classification have a description that can be identified the collections as well. Continue to the coding system use, we decided to use running number system. The reason why we choose running number system because of first, it's easy to apply. Second, we can apply to all the collections as well. By using running number system also, we can determine the series structures, and selecting a classification system, a choice must be taken on how to create codes or reference number for the files or records to be classed. The code must be simple and in the terms of distinctive of serif and the file identification. This means that each code of the classification based on the collection need to be applied by a simple and easy way to apply of the number that can be generated for the reference in the future present. Continue to the dissemination process. The meaning of dissemination process is on how to include the publication based on the selected location from observation and selection to provide the contents available for users. This means that our main targets of the dissemination process is on how to spread the information to the users in a correct way. For the St. Mary's School archive, there is the method of dissemination process which is really cited by three. First is a dissemination by finding aids. Second is the application and reproduction, and last is the outreach programs. For the dissemination by finding aids, these methods lead our staff in order to conduct the indexes and the cataloging for the search of the material and the collections. For the dissemination by finding aids, it can be done by the manually and also in the online platform, which is the system that we use that are connected with the library as well. But you need to remember, in order to dissemination by finding aids, the user need to be sure about the collection that they want based on their needs. Second, the application and reproduction. Okay, the application and reproduction can be consist of the using of energy of human in order to duplicate and reproduction of the materials. This means that this method consists of the scanning, of the listening, and of the service in order to know exactly about the collection as well. Okay, the methods used, these methods are available when the researchers or user requests for the methods. In the meaningful way, reproduction consists of activities such as scanning or delivering the audio visual by using the CDs or the email, which is we have to use the specific classification or uh, specific types in order to convey the information based on the needs of the researchers and users. For last is outreach programs. Okay, the main targets of outreach programs is the relationship that can be created by the programs by started from the school, the school of archives, the non-government institution, the government institution, and also the public community. The reason why we choose outreach program because this method can enhance the awareness of the audiovisual collections. For the easy way to understand, I really determine that there is a lot on how to managing the audiovisual materials, but people or community could not adapt the right structure uh, on how to maintaining and managing their audiovisual because they have a lack of knowledge by provide the programs, and by creating the programs it will enhance the knowledge and the relationship by the school archives, and the community will engage for the programs. Okay, this method can be engaged with a public participation. For the outreach program, St. Mary School Archive would like to have a collaboration with government organization and non-government organization. Through this, we would like to reach the aims of the people which know how to maintaining and managing the audiovisual collections.
Assalamualaikum and good afternoon, madam. My name is Mohamad Hakimi. So today I will present to you about the preservation and the conservation of the audiovisual record in SMK Summary. So, what is preservation and conservation? Preservation and conservation are very important to make sure that the information can be maintained for a long time, which is the preservation and the conservation is the process to make sure and is the process to handle and maintain the information to make sure the information can be passed for the future generation without any damage, and every single details are attached to the audiovisual format. So the preservation and conservation need to be done. So preservation, what is preservation and conservation? Preservation is a process on involving on how to handle and preserve the material for a long time. So in preservation involving the environment on what's temperature need to be used to preserve the record, what is the exposure of light, what is the suitable exposure of light for the material, what is the suitable humidity that need to be used to prevent any uh, mold or to prevent the decaying process of the material. So that is the preservation. So the conservation are act of preserving and protecting the material and the information from loss, damage, or deteriorate. So the conservation are the process of uh, preservation. So the conservation are act of preserving and protecting. So the conservation involving on how to handle the record, how to we handle the what we call it the so basically conservation are how we handle the other visual, which is we is it compulsory to use the glove, and how to transfer the record from how to transfer the information from the format to different format to make sure that the information can be maintained for a long time even with a different format. So that is the preservation and the conservation. In SMK summary, we have done preservation and conservation differently from each type. So first I will start with the photographic material. The preservation and conservation of the photographic material are very important because in every event there will be a photo to as that act as evidence, and the photo will be taken at a huge volume, at a large volume. So it need to be managed. It need to be preserved and conserved to make sure that the evidence maintained for a long time. So, the preservation and the conservation of the photographic material. First, the photo will be stored in a dark room with the minimum exposure of light. It is because too long the exposure, if the photo are exposed to the light at the long time, the it will affect the photo, which is it can turn the photo into the yellow as you can see in the picture. So next is glove is compulsory to prevent any chemical reaction. It because if we touch it bare using our bare hand, it will trigger the chemical reaction and can trigger the growth of mold of fungi, so it can decay the photo rapidly. So next is the container or the envelope to store the photograph must be acid free. This is very important because if the container or the envelope on preserving and storing the photographic material have acid, it will release the acids. Therefore, it is compulsory to use the acid free envelope to make sure that the envelope do not emit any acid and to do not release any acid to increase the process of decaying of the photographic material. And lastly, the material need to be stored under the 20 to 15 Celsius with the 20 until 35% of relative humidity. This is very important as the if the material are stored at the high temperature, it will make the material become like sweating, some kind like that, and it will trigger the growth of mold that can uh, that can damage the photographic material. Next is film. In our archive, there are also a film. So how to preserve the film? The film will be stored in the dark environment, and it is very compulsory to prevent to use the gloves. Same as the photography, it is compulsory to use the glove to prevent any chemical reaction. And the container, which is called film container, need to be cleaned from rust and dust and also free from bend. This is because the rust and dust can damage the quality of the picture in the film, and the bend can also damage the film, such as if the bend have a sharp edge, and it can tear the film and make the film damage and the information lost just like that. So it need to be clean from rust and dust, and also free from bend. And lastly, the material need to be stored under the 20 Celsius with the 35 and 40% relativity humidity. This is very important because same like photography, it will release as if the temperature are above 20% and the relativity are higher than this, it will release the moisture and will damage the material. So that is the preservation and the conservation of the film in in our archive. Next is diskette. The diskette will be stored in the acid-free diskette container, and the material will be stored under the same condition as the film, which is 20 Celsius with 35 and 40% of relativity humidity. Also, it is also compulsory to use the glove to prevent any factor that can trigger the mold growth, and uh, if can avoid the touching the diskette chip, as it can damage the information in it, and it can trigger the mold and can damage the information in the diskette. So at any cost, avoid touching the diskette chip. Next is sound recording. The sound recording will be usually stored in the CD format, and the CD will be stored in the acid-free container. So it is important to make sure that the place that we play the sound recording, such as the DVD player, should be clean from any dust, rust, and bend, same as like film, which is it can with the touch with the dust, rust, and bend, it can damage the information in the CD, and it can make sure that it can make the sound recording become corrupt, and the information can lost just like that. So it is important to make sure that the place that we play the sound recording are important, and the use of glove are compulsory, and do not touch the DVD with the bare hand, which it can leave the fingerprint and damage the CD, and can trigger the mold growth on the CD surface. So that is important to use the glove to handle this kind of material. And this material will be stored under the 80 Celsius with the 40 until 45% of relativity humidity. Lastly, microfoam. The microfoam in our archive will be stored in the acid-free container and kept in the darkest room with the minimum exposure of light if the microphone are be taken out from the container. And same as other material, gloves are very compulsory to prevent any chemical reaction. The microfoam should be handled with a gentle because of the fragility. This is because the microfoam are very fragile and need to be handled with care and gentle, without damaging the film on the microphone, as it can damage the information in it, and can corrupt the microphone, and if the any scratch, the microphone will corrupt, and sometimes the microphone can't be played because of the corrupt that happened to the film. Next is the material need to be stored under the 18 until 20 Celsius with the 35 percent of relativity humidity. This is a very ideal temperature and humidity, as the higher the humidity, it will cause the trouble to the microphone. So we keep the temperature between 18 and until 20 Celsius, and the relativity humidity are 35%. In the conclusion, every record and collection are very important, same as paper record, but every record has their own unique values and characteristics that doesn't have to the paper record. So it is very important to preserve the every record. All the process in managing the every record, from its creation and acquisition until the preservation, need to be followed, and especially for the selection, policy, classification, dissemination, and preservation and conservation of every material. It should be followed. To prevent any problem in the future. For example, if the selection policies are not followed, there will be too much every record on the archive, so it will cause the other problems, such as the lack of space, the higher cost that need to be maintained the material. So it is very important to follow all the what we call it it is very important to follow all of the flow to make sure the information of the information in the every record can be maintained for a long time, as long as possible, for make sure. And not only that, And not only that, the classification need to be used. Use the right classification. Dissemination should be disseminate to the more publicly to make sure that everyone aware about the use of the AV archive, and the preservation and the conservation need to be done properly to make sure that the information can be passed can be preserved and conserved for the next generation. Therefore, it is very important. The AV record are very important to make sure that I'm sorry, every record are very important as it has their own uniqueness and can be used as the evidence record as a supporting for the supporting evidence to the paper record. So it is the every record are very important, and we need to use it as at the and we need to use the every record at the fullest potential and get the benefit from it. So that's all from us. I hope you can understand the preservation. I'm sorry for my voice if my voice are not clear because I'm having a fever right now. But that's all from us. Thank you.